Hello everyone, welcome to another session of the Film Voyage. Today we have with us someone who is not only a phenomenal actor, he's also a phenomenal writer. Someone who people know and recognize as who was recognized as Kallu Mama for the longest time, but he's my Mama Kane. He's my brother from Raghu Romeo. He's Mehta from Ye Sali Zindagi, and all those underrated characters that were kind of brought to life by him. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Saurabh Shukla. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you so much.
So, as I was as I mentioned in my introduction, there are characters that people remember you by, and then there are characters that somehow you kind of imbibe, and the way you perform those characters were at times people don't see Saurabh Shukla there, but they know the association that they kind of make with those characters, like hi Aryan, because this is Saurabh Shukla doing this role. It becomes much more special in terms of performance, like the judge from Jolly LLP, or Mama Kane from Ye Tera Ghar Ye Mera Ghar. So when you these characters, when you approach these characters, because you are a reluctant actor, as Sudhir Mishra sir has put it very beautifully. You're a reluctant actor. What do you do? What is it that you add to these characters that kind of make them stand apart, like not in a not in a critical way, but stand apart from the rest of the story and make them stand out in our head?
So first of all, I'll clarify this here. This statement I actually told in one of the interviews that Sudhir once said that I'm a reluctant actor, and that's what makes me good, or he likes that quality. Yeah. So you have to understand, reluctant doesn't mean that you're not interested in it. Oh, so yeah. What he actually meant was that you're reluctant about the other parts of an actor, where you want validity, or you want the fame side of it, or whatever. So he was right, because I always thought that my main interest always was in making films, and acting comes naturally to me, and I do enjoy acting a lot. But I'm reluctant about the monetary part of it, or the logistic part of it, as you can say. I'm not reluctant about the process per se. Fine. What do I do? I don't know what I do. I mean, I just do it. So I approach a character. I try and find a life in the character, and that's it. My job is actually half done when it is written in a correct manner. So if the story is well written, the script is well written, the character is well defined, I think half of the job of an actor is done. So your job as an actor is now to understand the text and live it as lively as you can. And that is exactly what I do. I don't think that I do any magic in it, or I do not have a secret formula to approach a character. I mean, these are the very simple things which I do, and I enjoy it when I do it. So I think when I enjoy it, I guess that people also have a chance to enjoy it.
They do, they surely do. So tell us a little bit about this idea of kind of like the half the job that you add to the script, that you kind of elevate it and you interpret the character. What was learning this, what it took for you to learn this process? What was your learning as an actor like?
So everybody keeps talking about actors. An actor in isolation is nothing. When you're talking about a car, you don't say, so what does the steering wheel do? I mean, this steering wheel, how is it so beautiful? The steering wheel is beautiful, fine, but it's a part of the whole mechanism, and it doesn't make sense if it does not work in sync with the rest of the machinery. So the very first thing, which I always tell whenever I take a workshop, which is very rare with actors, I always say that if you want to act, learn to write, learn to direct, learn to sing, learn to dance, learn to paint, because all arts are the part of this car, big, huge car, which you are driving, you know, and you have to know everything about it if you really want to be a good driver or you know. So I'm saying to interpret what is written, how do you do that? If you do not have the understanding of writing, how will you interpret writing? So luckily, this happened with me a long time back when I started my career. Right from the beginning of my career, I was writing and I always wanted to direct. So I was thinking in terms of how a director thinks. So how to interpret a story into a visual medium. And when I act now, I think every other faculty works with it, because I don't think I only concentrate on my dialogues. I also try and think what's happening around me. Can I enhance that or can I boost that? You know, so it's not just my facial expressions. Also, it's people think that actors. So if you say Saurabh Shukla, an actor, or anybody, or you as an actor, so it's just that this body, this voice. No, it is not. You know, you are part of that text in which you provide a chance to enhance something else. For example, if I do this and I look for my specs and it's not there and I keep it there and I keep talking, but then the filmmaker will cut somewhere else and will show that the specs are lying somewhere else, and you might have a shot through the specs. So, you know, this is also a part of acting. It's part of that imagination which you can do. I guess I only do that.
So as a writer, like you said, that being an actor, you have to know about writing in order to interpret that. You as a writer, what is it that kind of like when you talk about, say, a film like Satya that you wrote, and then you went on to write Raghu Romeo, um, how much of that understanding as a writer helps you build characters where it might not be there on the text, in the text, it might not be there in the text, but it's something that you interpreted and you kind of added in the narrative yourself to kind of gel it, you know, to gel it with the narrative. How much of a writer kicks in there when you're building characters?
As an actor, when you're building characters,
Yeah.
all the time. So what is the prime exercise for an actor? Improvisation. What is improvisation? Every actor is told to improvise. You know, I mean, when you're becoming an actor and when you practice the craft of acting, improvisation is a big exercise. So you improvise. And what is improvisation? You're building a story. You're building a situation. So that means the writing kicks in. And if you want to be a good improviser, then you should be able to make stories. And that is a writer's job. So that's what I'm saying. So it's very difficult. For me, it's very difficult to, you know, to divide these things. I mean, who works at what time, you don't know. I mean, of course, I'm not directing the film. But then I think as a director, while acting, if I was the director, I would have liked this image. So do I provide that image? And the director who's seeing it, it's part of an improvisation for him, and he might like it. And he might say, yes, I would like to see it that way. So where the director kicks in, where the writer kicks in, I mean, I don't think that they kick in. I think that they are always there with it. So when I'm directing, the actor is always there. So when I'm writing, the director or the writer or the actor is always there. So it's a it's a mixed thing. It is always a lie.
Talking about your writing and your early days as a theater artist, what I noticed in your writing is in your filmography as a whole, that the kind of writing that's done in theater, um, and in being very influenced by, say, like you've often mentioned Arthur Miller and Mohan Rakesa as your influences. There's an inherent minimalism that comes into your writing. Say, for example, a film like Raghu Romeo, and in terms of strictly in terms of the spaces or the way the scenes pan out, uh, when it's influenced by theater, how much of that is like correct? If tell me if I'm correct there.
Okay, so you took Romeo's example, and Raghu Romeo, when Kumar Shani saw it, he said it's a celebration of words. He loved the film. He said it's a celebration of words, which he meant also that it is too many dialogues and too much said. But he loved it. He said that, it's quite fascinating to see that, you have so many words in a film, and still it communicates much more than what it is just saying. Anyway, so it's a quest. So principally, in art or in anything, what is an evolved person, or what is an evolved art? It is minimalism. So if you keep saying whatever expression you have, if you are telling a girl that you love her, so if you keep telling her the whole day, listen, I love you, and I love you, and I love you more than anything else, and I love you this way, and I love you to the moon, or whatever. I mean, she'll get bored. She's hearing the same thing again and again and again and again. You just say one thing, which is the art, that it is so precise, and it's so beautiful, and it's not so direct. You keep telling a woman you're beautiful, of course they like it, but you just say a line like this. I'm sure I'm just trying to make one line. So if I really want to praise a woman, I'll say, why haven't I seen somebody like you? Or will I be able to see somebody like you? And I like you. That's it. So which says everything, that you're the most, it's another way of saying that you're the most beautiful woman, or you're the most different woman I've ever met. So I'm just saying, this is principally we know. And this is the quest. So when, like poetry, why poetry is so beautiful? It gives images. It gives you the sense of something. And you as a reader, or the audience, you participate in it. Why minimalism? Minimalism is that I take you as intellectual or as talented as me in understanding what I'm trying to say. You're not spoon feeding me. You're not telling me everything, but you understand. So, सामने वाले को हमेशा एक बड़ा satisfaction रहता है. Oh, great, I understood it. That is, so don't take that away from the audience. And that's why minimalism. And cinema per se, because it's a visual medium, and when you have other ways of saying things, reflecting love or instead of just saying, I love you or whatever. So there's a small story. I'll quickly tell you that story. I read it somewhere. So when cinema came into existence, I mean, it is very early times of cinema. mostly when it started becoming a fiction storytelling. So mostly they took the great novels or the great plays. So theater was, because it is very much like cinema. It has dialogues, it has everything. So Shakespeare, somebody was making Shakespeare. So there was a long, big speech of Shakespeare I think from Julius Caesar or something. And the character Brutus looks up in the sky and he describes the sky, that how dreadful the clouds are. So it's a long passage. It's a beautiful poetry. So the director actually cut that part. It was point to point. So he said something about his confusion. Then he looks up and there was no dialogue. He looks up and then he continues with the next dialogue, which is about his confusion. And people were very angry. And they said that, how can you touch Shakespeare? How can you edit Shakespeare? How can you do that? He said, because Shakespeare was on stage, he couldn't show the sky. So he had to describe what the character is seeing. So there was a long passage about these dreadful black clouds, But I have a camera. So when my character looks up, I just look up and I see the dreadful clouds. And that cuts the whole page of poetry. And in one shot, you see that cloud and you feel that. So, it's a visual medium and it doesn't like too many words. Yeah.
So, the reason why I brought about Raghu Romeo and the idea of minimalism is the one thing that really fascinates me about Raghu Romeo is that the later half of the film, it's literally set in that one that one house,
one room.
One room, and the way that scene where brother is tied up and they're watching the show and that outbreak happens, Sweetie's outbreak happens. That felt very, in terms of writing, that felt very lifelike. That felt very, almost as if these actors are just, kind of playing around and, a real situation was being unfolded. So how much of that did you, because I spoke to Rajat sir about it as well, and he said that most of it was written, but please talk about that scene, like in terms of writing. What did you guys?
No, so it always happens. So it was written. It was completely written, but always same as Satya. Satya was also written, but then in always the kind of filmmaking which I like, and I like Rajat as a filmmaker very much. So you let the actors improvise and react at that time when the camera switches on, because you are at a location, you are in an environment, and there is a text which is there. Now, the beautiful thing about it is, which I really like, and I'm very proud of it, even today, we had to write the climax of Raghu Romeo, and we were thinking how to write it. So what happens in the climax? In the climax, we see every character talking about, we realize that how. So brother is in love with Sweetie. Sweetie is in love with Raghu. Raghu is in love with the image of an actor. And the actress hates that image. So this is the whole scenario. And we had to reflect that, it's Sweetie who says that, what have I not done for this love? Have you ever looked at my love? This is what is the basic point of the scene. So while we were writing again, the same problem happened, and I said कि यार writing about it कि मैंने तुमसे प्यार किया और तुमने मुझसे कभी प्यार नहीं किया, तुमने कभी देखा मेरी आंखों में, और it is so rubbish. It doesn't sound like anybody will say it. So what do we do? So we kept thinking, and then I said, okay, let me just give it a shot. So the whole climax is about love, but it is written on food. It is about food. So the actress makes salad, and Raghu is going on and on and on about, you know, how beautiful she is and how beautiful character she plays and how beautifully she cuts salad. And the brother is tied up and he says, oh, really? She has cut the salad? Oh, this is really nice and something. And suddenly it just goes on and on. And suddenly from the kitchen, Sweetie appears with a gun. And she says, just shut up. Just eat. And she says, you guys are going on and on about the salad. She says that anybody has said that the koftes are very good, you know, or the pulao which I have made is good. You guys can't see it. You just have to eat what you don't actually eat fully. What fills your stomach is this. But you will go on about the salad and who eats salad. So now this is about food. But in the garb of food, she's talking about her hurt, you know. And this makes Raghu realize, shit, I've never looked at her. You know, so this is something which I think it was a great achievement for me at that point of time, and I'm still proud of it, that I could write a scene like that.
And what's beautiful about that film is, like Kumar sir rightly said, that it's a celebration of words. And what I find the most fascinating thing about Raghu Romeo is that it's a musical. Like I don't think people talk about it as a musical. Mostly people say that it's a black comedy. And it's a musical. It's a beautiful musical that the entire idea of lies, and you know, he
Mm.
so, and that scene, that song where Raghu has finally got Neetaji and it gets back. That's an amazing song situation. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day that as a situation, once when we write, when we write song situations in the script, it's like, okay, Raghu has got Neetaji, and he worships her, and he's like a hero, con Romeo. Aisa karke he's doing that. But later half of the song, he starts talking about the things around him, and he talks about the bartan, he talks about the patte and everything. So what was your thought behind that situation in the song, and how did you guys approach that, and what was the idea behind it?
Okay, so that I'll give full credit of that to Rajat, because Rajat was also the co-writer. I mean, it was initially his film, and he thought of it. I came in later. See, by default, the filmmaker is the other writer, and actually he's the main writer. So as a writer, when I'm not directing the film, I'm actually helping out my main writer to take the idea forward. And it was completely Rajat's take on it, that he wanted to do it that way because he was thinking from a filmmaker, from a storyteller's point of view. So this Rajat would be able to answer the best. And I know that it was pretty amazing. There's this whole sequence about filmmaking on the set.
Yeah.
You know, dhua dhua karke wo
Jaldi
gana hai.
jaldi dhua,
हाँ, so that is all brilliance of Rajat, that he could visualize it that way, things like that. Yeah.
And even why find Raghu Romeo to be very close to a very theater-like experience? Not to say that it's not cinematic; it's very cinematic. But every like that character, that moment where brother says कि अगर खून होता तो ऊपर वाला ही खून कराता होगा, मैं आराम से सोता. That was like that's such a profound thought that he has. Between like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that was pretty much part of the dialogue writing, and so I remember that. So what is storytelling? Why do you tell stories? I mean, people say that the people have different ideas. Of course, I mean, you entertain people. You don't want to bore people with your storytelling or when you want to tell a story. But why do you need to tell a story? Why do you tell a story? You tell a story in some way to expose yourself. What do you think? What do you think about life? What do you think about world? What do you think about people? What do you think about relationships? What is it that you have believed in? Story is not just a blueprint of the activity. Within that activity, there's life. People think, they get hurt. What hurts people? What hurts the character? You might not get hurt by that, but that character gets hurt by something, you know. So it is your ideas. So when, and this I have always thought about, I don't think that any character in this world or any person in this world lives with indignity. Even if you're a thief, you know, or doing anything antisocial or whatever, you know, you still have some pride. That pride might be false, but you create a pride. And that's how you justify your life, you know. So we have this great ability of, you know, creating an illusion around us. Whether that's right or wrong, I mean, who's going to judge? I can't judge your reality. You can't judge my reality. So it's as simple as that. So coming to brother's line, he says कि देखो देवी हो या बेबी हो, ये काम है मेरा, और काम जो है गॉड से बढ़ के होता है मेरे लिए. You know, that is what his logic is. कि I am a man who, सबसे आदमी की सबसे बड़ी खासियत जो नॉर्मली जो आदमियों में माना जाता है वो क्या होता है? मेरा काम मैं हूं, है ना? So that is the feeling, which I thought is very funny also. Yeah. Because he's doing such an atrocious work, but you know how he has justified for himself. He has justified that thing, and he has gained some dignity out of it.
So, like taking that thought further, Satya's character, now correlating that thought with Satya's character, that dignification, that dignified way of living. Satya, we don't know anything about. We don't know where he's coming from, and we don't know, like at any point in the film, it's where he is and what he is doing in that moment is what we see. When you are writing a screenplay like that, where the character whose journey we're supposed to follow, we don't know anything about. How do you bring that? Like, what was your idea behind bringing that dignified idea of, you know, that this character should feel like a person, that he is a real person, and even though you do not know his whole story, you'll agree to follow him through the rest of the duration of the film.
So, I mean, when we talk at this moment, when we are talking, am I reflecting where, you know, am I saying that where I was born and how was my childhood and whom did I meet and whom I fell in love with and who broke my heart and whose heart I broke? No, I'm not. But if you talk to me enough, you will understand that what is the kind of person I am. How does that happen? It happens in the present because you keep reflecting your mind. You know, it's not important to say it all the time. So this is again Ramu, the director. He was very clear when we were writing the script. He said that I don't want to discuss the background of the protagonist who's actually involved in a negative activity. I don't want to justify him. So, but still, because he's your protagonist, you create an empathy for that character. So there was this old tradition of Hindi films where we always quickly justify, because we are very impatient people. हम हमेशा कहते हैं कि यार शुरुआत में ना हमारे पहले सीन में बता दो हमें कहानी क्या होने वाली है. Why do you want to do that? You don't have, मतलब we don't have the patience to listen a story which just holds your hand and takes you somewhere. And that is an unexpected place it will take you to. We are not ready for that. We never like it. We always say, and especially, I don't know, maybe the audience likes it, but the people in the trade, they immediately want to know, what is the story? Is it a comedy? Is it a love story? You know, is it a dark film? Quickly tell me. Why do I have to tell you? I have 2 hours to tell you that, right? So give me 2 hours, na? Otherwise, I'll just tell you right in the beginning and go home and sleep. So I personally believe that you can tell everything what you want to tell. You get an idea. You don't actually come to know that who is Satya. वो था क्या, मतलब वो कहां से आया था, ये नहीं पता लगता आपको. लेकिन you get an idea. कुछ है उसके बैक में, कुछ है. There is something. He has been wronged somewhere. Maybe not in one occasion. Maybe it's from the childhood. The way, he has felt things about. So I was just watching, just to give you an example, there are many films or many this thing. But latest I'm just watching on Netflix, Serpent. And that's about Charles Shobraj. He was quite a strange personality. He was a very strange personality. But why was he like this? We don't know. But he has this hidden anger about him being, brought up in France. But neither he's French, nor he's Indian, nor he's Filipino, I think.
In Indochina.
His mother was a Filipino or either a Filipino, whatever.
Yeah.
Or Malaysian. I'm forgetting that part. But that's okay. I'm just saying, but you feel this resentment about the existing society in that character, and that's why his actions are against the society. So I think that is more beautiful to say it in a story rather than, giving data of because his mother was tortured and father was kicked and, sister was raped and whatever. So he's taking the revenge. No, it's not that. Every woman in prostitution does not have a sob story. There are other aspirations also. People who do unethical work is not just because they had no other choice. They had choice. But what was convenient for them is also a great point, which is justifiable. It's not an unjustified thing. Yeah. So something like that.
As you mentioned, this idea of being like discovering the person in the present tense as a screenplay. Do you believe in causality and in plot per se, that okay, this has to happen, which is why I'll see this, or do you just let it unfold in the present tense the way, like, say, Iranian films do, like all of them do not have many parallel tracks going on, that this happens, this is happening here because of which this is happening there. It's all unfolding in the present tense, and it almost seems fated. So which school of thought do you subscribe to the most?
I belong to every school of thought if that helps me in telling an interesting story. It is as simple as that, number one. Secondly, I think you always have an idea. So I had an idea that what I wanted to do with my life. You have an idea that what you want to be, you know. It is not necessary that it'll happen exactly the way you have thought. But your palette will be around what you have thought, you know. So when we say plot, plot is not a Bible. It's a guideline. The plot says, or even in Iranian films, you know, whether it's a Majid Majidi film or anybody, you know, they have pretty much an idea about what they are going to say. Now, it depends director to director. Some might just write it down to the T and then follow it till they edit it. And some might let it go because then it can bring something more which they have not thought of. So I like this thought that you write it completely and then you let go of it. So it's like raising a child, you know, with everything, with every possibility you can think of, and then let the child do the journey. It'll not go haywire because you have raised the child so well. You know, the child will have its own adventures, but it'll not go haywire. It'll still go in the same direction.
So moving on from that, sir, as you moved to write Calcutta Mail, which was an adaptation. What was
Yes.
what was it that you were exploring there as a writer?
So it is called an adaptation, and it is nothing like the Telugu film,
Yeah.
Which was the original film. It has not, it just has a very basic plot line from that, and it is because Sudhir was there. The kind of film we were to make, that's exactly not the film which Sudhir ever believed in or would have liked to make the film. His expression is not like that. So we just took the basic premise of it, and then we built a new story on it. And again, Sudhir was the director, but he's a filmmaker. And when I say filmmaker, which means that you're not only the director, you're also the writer of the film. Yeah. So that is the story of Calcutta.
So talking about your collaboration with Sudhir, sir, it kind of like we saw you in Hazaro towards the end as the cop, and later on in Khoya Khoya Chand as Khosa Saab, which is one of my favorite characters you've ever played. And as my favorite, like the character I love the most is Ye Sali Zindagi's Mehta. So talking about that interpretation and talking about that like the idea of, you know, okay, there's this producer, there's this Bollywood producer who used to be mostly Punjabis back then, or a businessman from Gurgaon. Every time, what is it that you look for while playing these characters that helps you understand कि अच्छा अब ये मिल गया है? Like actors usually say कि अच्छा I have not found the character. Like you get these characters and kind of when Mehta says कि ये अरे औरत जो है ना सारी जब चुड़ैल निकलती है आदमी को गोबर कर देती है. What is it that makes it so believable?
So please understand, I do not get into this. I mean, people have this thing that यार मेरे वो character पकड़ में नहीं आ रहा, पकड़ में नहीं आ रहा. होता है, मेरे साथ भी होता है. ऐसा नहीं है. It's not untrue completely, but it's no big deal, boss, because the character is there in the script. Okay, so when you are working with filmmakers you like and you like their work, and aspirational filmmakers हैं, मतलब आपके लिए वो aspirational है उनका काम, तो you're sorted, because finding the character and everything will be done by them. You just have to understand it and do it right. You know, it's as simple as that. So this goes for Sudhir. So I never had a problem, because I know I'm playing this scene, but there is somewhere Sudhir has thought of what he's going to do with this character, and through this character, what is the point he's making, because he will not let go a character waste, so it's not frivolous. So I do not have these problems. If I have liked the filmmaker, then I know that the filmmaker will do all these things. My job is to understand it and do it right. होता है, कभी ऐसा होता है when you are searching a character which you have no reference point. So there are, I would say, 2 or 3 characters in my life which I have played, which I had no reference point. So one was in Sudhir's film, which never got released actually, Tera Kya Hoga Johnny. I played a character about whose life I don't know much. He's a transsexual eunuch or a cross-dresser, and I have no idea about these lives. I do not have a first-hand information about them. And Google doesn't tell, it can give you data, it doesn't give you a feeling. So you don't know how to feel about them. So it was very difficult for me to imagine that character and how the character will behave, what will happen. So I told Sudhir, I said, Sudhir, well, first of all, I'm not going to change my voice. Because in these characters, the first thing you do is that you change your body language and you change your voice. I said, I'm not going to do any of this. Let's see where the script guides us. And he agreed to it. That was one. Then in PK, Raju's film PK, I was playing a Swamiji, who's actually this con sadhu. And I have never understood their psyche. And I didn't know, I understand money. Okay, fine, they get money, they get power. But then what was troubling me in that character was that, like I said in the beginning, that every character finds some kind of a dignity in their life, some pride. I said, what is the pride in it? How do they? It was not understandable for me. So I had a very big discussions with Raju, and Raju really helped me out in that. And he really made space in that character in the film, where, even in one small thing, the point of view of Swamiji also comes out, where he tells Amir's character, PK को बोलता है, कहता ठीक है चलो झूठ ही सही यार, लेकिन अगर एक झूठ से लोग जिंदा रह जाते हैं तो what is your problem then? Which is a point of view. So so I approach it that way. I do not really get stuck. यार मेरे हाथ में नहीं आ रहा, हाथ में क्या आना है, आप ही में है. So when I get a character, I don't search externally for that character. I just have to look into my life. Where have I faltered? Where have I, excelled? And where have I been honest? And where have I been dishonest? And I'll find it all.
So you try to internalize it and kind of resonate with your own life, and to find a relatable factor with the character. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. A relatability. That does not mean that everything would have happened with me.
Yeah.
But in my surroundings, and I have a first-hand experience about that.
So talking about your character in Das Day, now that was a text. It was Hamlet in reverse, as Sudhir sir said in many places. So the character of Hamlet's uncle, Claudius, you were playing that, and it was somewhere very much, and the hair kind of reminded me of Lion King, like that. So, and it was very much like, and what do you do when you get a text that's already like, because of course you've done that in theater multiple times. What's that process of yours like when it's been performed that way and it's a new interpretation? It's the journey is in reverse.
Yes. So first thing you have to understand that Dasdev, which is also interpretation of Devdas and Hamlet.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's the filmmaker's take. From an actor's point of view, and I don't think that any actor actually looked at the script, that we are either reading another version of Hamlet or Devdas. Devdas. Not that. It's a fresh script. And you start interpreting it from zero. That's how it goes. So when you're doing it, that's not the time you're carrying any burden of Shakespeare or Sharachandra. There is a new script. It is written by Sudhir Mishra. Let's interpret it. And because it has been told that there is Shakespeare in it and there is resonance of Sharachandra in it, it automatically, subconsciously, keeps guiding you. That's all. There's no complicated process to it. So the way you interpret every other script, you will interpret this also, but you have been told, so you have an idea. And of course, then you start finding the similarities and the dissimilarities in the script while you're interpreting it.
Taking that thought ahead, you went ahead to write and direct Mudda. So
Yeah.
when did you decide, like, okay, now I have to make my first film? What was that decision for you like?
Well, that was always there. Mudda has been a big tragedy, actually. So that was my first film, and it taught me a lot of things about life. It taught me a lot of things about filmmaking. It taught me a lot of things about art and people. So, but there's no point crying about what happened, but it has been a great teacher. And a great teacher always comes when there is a failure. They say that success doesn't teach you anything. Failure always becomes a teacher and makes you think what went wrong. So, of course, Mudda was a big failure. And there was a basic tussle between the ideology. So I set out, so you will see reflections of in the making, you will see reflections in Mudda, you will see, in some parts, you will see it's like trying to tell a story in an Iranian film format or a Chinese film format. The Chinese or the Iranian village-based stories where the characters are simple but complicated, but something. But then suddenly it goes into Bollywood and it goes into a B-grade action film and everything. Because the one who was producing it, may his soul rest in peace, and he's no more. He was a very passionate man, but he was a man of different kind of films, and I was a man of different kind of films. So he wanted to see his kind of film, and I wanted to see my kind of film, in which the film got, ripped apart. But it taught me a lot. It made me meet the most beautiful people. And it also taught me what not to do in my life. So that's the importance of Mudda in my life.
And taking that learning ahead, you made Chehre, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
That was the second film. Chehra was the second film. So that learning from the first film, the mistakes that you made in the first film, what were those things that you kept in mind while making Chehra?
So Chehra was almost at the same time. Both these films were almost made together, and I was making a shift
Oh,
to from acting, I was making a shift to filmmaking. And Chehre was a thriller, much more slicker in terms of its shooting style and everything. And uh, it was actually based on a very basic plot by James Headley Chase. So one of his novels. So it was that, and the plot was quite fascinating. It was very fascinating plot. So I was done. I was like, I said, boss, I have this story and this is done. So I made, and I'll tell you that Chehra was also a big flop. It didn't work with the audience. It didn't work for me also after some time when I saw it. So what happened? So the second learning came from the second film. And this is exactly what I was saying right in the beginning, that about the plot. So I had a great plot, and I thought that everything will be done by the plot. So I think that I did not pay much attention to anything else. And I was depending heavily, and that made me it, because it makes you lethargic. You say, okay, fine, yaar, ho gayi, bahut mehnat ho gayi, itna acha plot dhoond liya, bas bahut mehnat ho gayi. But that's not it. Because the plot after a point doesn't mean anything. What is the journey in between? And so these two films, right in the beginning, they were like two blows. And for a very long time, I did not make a film. For a very, very long time, I did not make a film. And then the next film I made, which was for television, won me Rapa Award for the best director. It's called Mr. Mehman. It was a sweet little film, which was written by Barnali Ray. And it was produced by her also. And her partner, Monica Chan. So that was after these two films, when I restarted my journey, rebooted the whole thing. Then these things I started understanding about life and about filmmaking and about my art.
after Chehra, like as a director, you made three more films, which were Raat Gayi, Baat Gayi, Papu Kan Dancewala, and I'm
Yes,
24. Uh,
yes.
what were the ideas, or what was it as a filmmaker that you felt that not just writing these stories, say like a film like Raat Gayi, Baat Gayi, what was it that interested you as a director that you said that this needs my vision?
So it's not about what made me, what generated the interest in me to direct the film. No, it's not that. I'm always interested in directing a film. I'm always, The only thing is that I need to tell a story which I understand. And I'm very proud of these three films. All these three films were great collaboration with Rajat Kapoor, Vinay Pathak, Ranveer Shori, so these are the stories. So Raat Gayi Baat Gayi, for example, though people mistook it, and in some articles somebody wrote that it's a ripoff of Hangover, because the basic premise, and it actually was based on it came in one of the parties. This idea came in my mind that when you are in a party which is like high flying party, uh, you let yourself lose into that moment, but the next day when you wake up, you might have been so stoned last night that you don't even remember that what exactly happened. But you have an idea that last night you were doing some hanky-panky and what went on. So that was the story, that a man is searching his last night. Next morning, he's searching his last night, and because his life depends on that. Because if the story would have been what he was doing, if it has happened, then it's a big blow on his life, on his family. But it was very different from Hangover. Hangover is a great film, but Hangover was made much later, actually.
Yeah.
We made the film much earlier. It got released much later. So that is the thing. And again, I loved it because it had the intricacies of relationships, human behavior, the not all the time you're a hero, but you are also the fall guy. So all these things were there. And I loved it. I loved that. The whole experience of that film.
Talking about your scripts ahead, there's a very underrated film that not many people talk about when it comes to its writing. It was Mumbai Express.
Mumbai Express is not a script written by me. It is essentially written by Mr. Kamal Hassan.
Oh, was he credited as the writer?
Yes. It is because Mumbai Express was made in 3 languages.
Okay.
No, sorry, 2 languages, Tamil and Hindi.
Yeah.
And so the script is completely Mr. Hassan's, and it was written in Tamil. So he said that you're going to translate it. And when I read it, I said, sir, I can't translate it because the expression is entirely different in Hindi. It has the culture of Tamil Nadu in it, whereas the characters are from the north in the Hindi version.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. So culturally, there are things which are not said this way and whatever, and the playing of the scenes will change. And he gave me a free hand. He says, go ahead and please change whatever you want to change. So I did not change his screenplay, but I did change the playing of within the scenes. And also the characters changed a bit. That's why he gave me that credit.
And from there, you you collaborated with Rajat sir twice again, with Mithya and then in Fatso. So
yes.
What was your
as in my correct. पहले रघु रोमियो, उसके बाद 3 किए मैंने, रघु रोमियो, मिथ्या, and then
Fatso.
Yes.
Yeah. So Mithya mein sir, like as a writer, that transformation of like Raj sir told me about this idea of an actor kind of like using becoming the part he's playing, and that was his thought. With the way you guys wrote it, there's a very morbid nature in the nature of the scenes as they play along, and it gets stark, and it gets almost dreary by the end, like dreadful by the end. It's almost it becomes very tragic. So as a screenplay, did you guys what was the idea that you wanted to tap into with that screenplay?
Okay. Yeah. So if there is a tragic streak or the morbid streak, it is in the journey of the character. It is the story you have chosen to tell. The idea was to exactly, in a way, compensate it with humor and not make it look morbid or tragic, because that would have been the end of it. One, you are telling a tragic story, and that you are telling it in a crying way is like a complete no. I personally don't like it. I am a great fan of Charlie Chaplin. That the tramp eats the shoe, but he's not aware of the tragedy he's going through. He's still living without being, very sentimental about it. So that was the whole idea, and that was the main focus. And that's why you will see that the scenes are very funny in Mithya, and they are exciting, or they are thrilling, rather than, because ultimately you know that it's going to reach that tragic end, and that tragic end makes the heart of the film, that you feel for the character. So that was the basic, as a screenplay writer, or as a writer, I would say that I had that focus. Again, the story was Rajat's, and he was an equal writer in the film.
And there's that scene in Mithya where VK completely like the just like Raghu Romeo. There's this scene that I find very lifelike and very improvisational in terms of its writing, where he just flips out because is not getting an omelette, and he just says, "ये बस साले ऐसी जिंदगी से तो मौत ही बेहतर है." वो he gets a gun and कि तुम लोग सारा plan चौपड़ हो जाएगा. So what was that writing that scene like? What talk a little bit about that?
So it's again, it was a written scene, and it was again, I think the hangover came from Raghu Romeo because I was too happy with the food scene. So again, you will see a food scene in Mithya. But it was used for this particular situation and to reflect the mental state of the character. You know, it was not about the omelette, but you know, it's the absurd situation where you know an omelette actually reflects your state of mind.
And of course, you spoke about Charlie Chaplin, and we see you guys paying a tribute to Charlie Chaplin in Fatso, with that whole segment where they're watching the film and where you appear in the film. So, where did Fatso come from? Like, of course, it was Rajat sir's idea, I believe, and but in terms of again, in terms of the screenplay and the way the film panned out, um uh, it had a very it started as a very fantasy satirical kind of a and it had that hope that even Raghu Romeo when it ends on a hopeful note between Sweetie and Raghu, but there's this the inherent sadness about it towards the end, that he lost the image idea of love that he was in with, and Mithya is it's a tragedy, and with Fatso there's a sense of hope towards the end. What were you guys kind of aiming for and inching towards?
So as I said, these are all Rajat's stories. So you have to understand that he's telling a story, and it's his choice and what fascinates him. So whether it's in a film in which I did not participate at all, which is his one wonderful film he made called Aankho Dekhi. So if you analyze that, you will realize the same streak as a filmmaker or as a storyteller he has in all his films. So not particularly, I might be agreeing to it 100%, but that's a choice. And when I'm writing with him as a co-writer, then uh, I'm adding to the main idea, the soul of the film.
When do we get to see you direct next, sir? Like I'm 24 was
Soon, I guess. Soon, I guess. And soon is a safe word, you know. Soon is a safe word.
So Kabir has a question. Every actor has a dominant emotion which he can feel or perform at clue, at Q. So how to develop these other emotions in yourself that you can perform repeatedly without sounding or feeling fake? I
Okay,
believe it's, yeah, yeah.
the best answer I heard in Tampa. केविन स्पेसी ने दिया था, ऐसा ही सिमिलर क्वेश्चन ही पूछा गया था उससे कि which is the emotion which you find most identifiable and which is the emotion you find very difficult to play. And he gave a very beautiful answer. He says, I don't think emotions come in boxes. You know, that you can buy this emotion and take this emotion and push forward this emotion. No. All emotions are there. They're there. You just have to know them and being truthful about it. And then in your performance, which emotion is going to take the front seat, that the script will guide. You know, so there's no technique to, you know, I can't make you sensitive by technique. You have to be sensitive. That's all.
So yeah, thank you so much for that, sir, and thank you so much for doing this.